McGillicuddy and Murder's Pawn Shop. Episode 17. Trapped. September 26th, 1921. Continued. I sat beside Ariana as we continued to discuss the paper. The night enthusiasts were getting good. Besides having murdered 2 people, I was now reported to be living in the city, using disguises. Not only did this mean I couldn't leave the pawn shop, but it also meant I had to be extra careful in McGillicuddy and Murders. If someone stumbled across Ariana and I during the day, they'd see my face, and we could never hide out in the pawn shop again. "What else?" I said. Ariana folded the paper placidly. "You've killed another person," she said. "Who was it this time?" I said. I paused. Who was it the first time? I'd been avoiding my murders like the plague. I didn't want to know anything about them, which was cowardly, because I needed to be up to date on what the night enthusiasts were trying to do. "Well, you killed an old woman the first time," Ariana said. She tutted her tongue. "So shocking. For shame, Maude." I smiled, while feeling green. "Go on." "This last time," Ariana said, "you killed a young man who was finishing his doctorate. And you cut off his thumb." "No," I said. "Yes," Ariana said, taking a little too much pleasure in the gore. "They're calling you a serial killer now. A mad woman." "Wonderful," I said. "I'm now going to be the subject of nursery rhymes and ghost stories." "Children will imagine you coming out of their closets at night," Ariana said, with a nod. "Ariana," I said. "Ariana, these people aren't actually dead, are they?" She looked at me gravely. "Well, you didn't kill them, Maude." "I know that. But are they really dead? I assumed the murders were fake because the murderer was fake. But are the night enthusiasts going around killing people?" Ariana leaned forward and took my hand. "You're not to blame, Maude. You know you're not. If I'd said yes to their stupid riddle on the bottom of the sea, then those 2 people would be alive right now." "Yes, and then the night enthusiasts would have you murder other people with your own 2 hands," Ariana said. "Come on, cheer up. Maybe they were murdered anyway by some random psychopath. Maybe the night enthusiasts are only pinning real murders on you, not murdering people fresh for your conviction." "Maybe," I said glumly. "Cheer up," Ariana said again. "Today, we're going to go exploring. This place has secrets, and you and I are going to discover them." I told Ariana that I shouldn't go exploring during the day, that even pretending to be a customer wasn't good enough now. I needed to get out of the city. I needed to hide until tonight. Ariana glowered. "Don't make that face at me," I said. "I'm not mad at you," she said. "I'm mad at the night enthusiasts. Honestly, who's running that show? This is a mess. You would think they could stick to a single plot line, but no." She sighed. I laughed at her, and then she laughed with me. We resolved to go to Iceland, since Ariana had a postcard in her pocket. I thought it was very strange that she had a postcard of Iceland, but it was lucky, because it meant we could both wish for the same location. We arrived within 2 blinks of each other, and we stood on a beach in Iceland. Iceland is beautiful. When I was a little girl, I thought Iceland was the 3rd North Pole, you know, with penguins and seals and no human life. Then someone told me people lived on Iceland, and I assumed they were Eskimos. I dare say the average adult still thought Iceland was populated by penguins. Beside me, Ariana took a deep gulp of the air. It was truly magnificent. It smelled of the sea, and it was a wilder fragrance than anything I'd smelled before. The greenery and the sharp, sneezy scent of rock were all mixed with the scent of the ocean, and I was enthralled. "This is my favorite place in the entire world," Ariana said. She looked over at me, eyes vulnerable. "I dream of this place. When I hate myself, and I hate my life, I come here." "You come here?" I said, with a laugh. "Well, in my imagination, I mean," she said. She tugged nervously on the tip of her nose, then laughed. I suppose that makes me sound like an idiotic child. You mean this is your favorite spot in the entire world, and you've been able to teleport for days, and you've never been here? She blushed. No, I've never been here before. I couldn't imagine Ariana hating herself, and I said so. Well, she said, you know, sometimes it's hard. Well, it shouldn't be, I said. I put my arm around her. You'd be surprised, Ariana said. Pish. We spent the day in Iceland. We wandered around all day, enjoying the scenery, just talking to each other. It was hard to be afraid of what came next, when the world seemed still and beautiful and pristine. The threat of the night enthusiasts seemed to melt away, and it was just Ariana and I on the cusp of an adventure. That night, late, we returned to McGillicuddy and Murder's. The pawn shop was dark and silent. Ariana strode boldly up the staircase, back to our spot, but I had an eerie feeling. This is going to sound strange, diary, but to me, the pawn shop smelled different. Have you ever drunk from a glass that you thought was your own, only to realize it was someone else's? You know right away, because the taste is slightly different. That happened to me once with a glass of water. I picked up the glass with some boy at a high school party, and I drank his water instead of mine. Water tends to taste the same no matter where you go, and besides, I'd been drinking this water a moment before. But his glass tasted different. I'm no scientist, but I assume that was the taste of his saliva. I'm used to my own, so I don't notice it, but his was different, and I knew right away that I was holding the wrong glass. Well, I felt like I was standing in the wrong pawn shop. The smell was different. It was like our pawn shop had been tainted with the presence of someone else. Ariana, I called softly. She turned around halfway up the stairs. You don't have to be so quiet, you know, it's... I cut her off. I hurried closer. I think there's someone else here, I said. She squinted at me. Oh, come on, Maude, don't be so suspicious. I can smell them, I said. Ariana looked at me like I was as crazy as a bat. She glanced upwards, listening. You smell them. Come on, let's run to hotel, I said, the coward in me blooming to the surface. Ariana glowered. I'm sorry, you smelling someone isn't good enough reason for me. The air feels different, I said. Ariana sighed. She looked me once over. Well, let's investigate, she said. She started climbing the stairs. Are you still spooked about that paper? Aren't you? I said. Not really, she said. I still think it was just magic. I think you summoned it accidentally. I wished I could summon her peace of mind. Just help me look, all right? I said. Ariana and I began to explore the pawn shop. We didn't have any lights with us, and that was a mistake. I'd never explored the pawn shop in the dark. I'd always explored during the day, before the whole magic unusual business, and Ariana and I had explored at night, but with candles and laughter and a feeling of safety. Ariana split apart from me in the second floor, and I had to walk past the large mummy alone. I felt like everything around me was moving. Just when I was about to give up, because everything was giving me the creeps, I noticed a child's train car hidden underneath a table. I got down on my hands and knees and dragged it out. It was the size of a loaf of bread, made of wood and brightly painted. A little man, made out of wood, frowned behind black bars. The thing moved in my hands. I almost dropped it, until I realized it was wound up like a clock. You know how sometimes, when you pick up a music box, it starts to tinkle? I suppose this was the same thing. The little man writhed and held up a wooden sign. Help me, the sign said. I'm trapped. I had the most disturbing feeling, like I was holding a real human soul in my hands. We hope you've enjoyed episode 17, Trapped, of McGillicuddy and Murder's Pawn Shop. McGillicuddy and Murder's Pawn Shop is written and performed by Minerva Sweeney Wren. All rights reserved. Please subscribe, share it with your friends, and support Minerva Sweeney Wren at patreon.com/SweeneyWren. McGillicuddy and Murder's Pawn Shop will continue next week with episode 18, Cracked Mirror.